Hello, this is Maximus Uncensored, Episode 3. I'm your host, Max. Thank you for joining us. Be sure and subscribe to my channel and subscribe to my Rumble account as well. So follow me at Rumble and also subscribe to my main channel, which is Maximus Uncensored. Actually, the main channel is the Rumble and the account, and then follow me on there and then subscribe to Maximus Uncensored. I do these podcasts once in a while just to talk about things. This is where you get the full-blown, uncensored version of Max. And I pretty much just do these for Rumble, and I enjoy doing them. Thank you again for joining us. I wanted to talk to you about something interesting, actually. I wanted to talk to you about the weaning us off of social media. You know, we didn't need social media 15 years ago. Even 12 or 13 years ago. It didn't really exist 10 years ago. One of the biggest reasons social media, other than Facebook and remember MySpace before that, people had to go home, get on their laptops or get on their desktop computers when those were the thing. But the fact that smartphones have become so prolific is the reason why social media has become the monstrosity that it is. And it's a matter of convenience. When I say social media, I'm including things like Twitter, and I'm also thinking of big tech companies like Amazon. A lot of that is convenience, the idea that you can carry it with you. Because I think, frankly, if smartphone technology had not evolved the way it had, and if the high-speed internet and wireless had not evolved the way it did, I don't think these big tech companies would be quite as big as they are. I think that the 2010s were really a turning point for them because, when I think back on it when I was much younger, you'd have to go home, get on your desktop computer or your laptop, and you'd have to actually, some people had dial-up. You remember dial-up back in the 2000s? And therefore, when you went on your browser, you would log into one of these you'd log into Twitter. That's when I first discovered Twitter was around, I think it was the late 2000s, and I had a BlackBerry. It was my first cell phone. I thought that was such a big deal. Remember the BlackBerries? And then I got rid of it, or I didn't pay any attention to it because I thought it was stupid. It was an echo chamber. It was pretty much worse than Parler is. I think Parler's app is really great. I can't wait for them to get back up and running. But when you would log into Twitter on your computer, I kind of rediscovered it in 2012 for the elections, and it was still an echo chamber. It was just it was weird. It was just like I thought people would just, good morning, I'm going and taking a shower, I'm having this for lunch. It was kind of weird. The thing that I thought brought it to some sort of light for its political usage, in my mind anyway, was the Green Revolution in Iran, because I remember the Iranian people who were fighting for freedom were using social media to get their messaging out, and I think Twitter was a large part of that. But when you think about, like I was thinking around 2012, you would go on Twitter, and there was a lot less censorship back then, and you would say something or whatever. And people would follow you and pay attention, and to some degree, but it wasn't as in doctrine, it wasn't as wrapped up and interwoven in our fabric of our communications of our society as it is today, which is why I think it needs to be, it needs the government oversight because it is a public forum. In fact, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals a year ago affirmed that when they ruled that Donald Trump, as president, could not block users, which is his right and privilege under the terms, the TOS, the terms of service for Twitter. He has the right to block users, but he can't do it because he's a public figure, because him using these social media services, in essence, creates a public forum. So you could take that argument from the Second Circuit, and you could say, likewise, the social media platforms don't have a right to expel or to suspend Donald Trump as president of the United States because he is a public figure and it is a public forum. It is no longer a matter of it being a private company. This is a special case. And so I would argue that Donald Trump and the Trump family have a massive lawsuit that they could slap on Twitter and any of these, and Instagram and Facebook, for doing just that, using their rights as a company to suspend an account. But in the case of the Second Circuit, they ruled that such rights don't apply to the users, at least, which is Donald Trump, because the owner of the account, because he is a public figure, and because of the way he uses these, the people have a right under the First Amendment to access his information. Well, and therefore, too, if the people have a right to access his information or access his speech, then he has to also have the right to speak in the first place. So it has to be, it can't just go one way. It's got to go both ways in this case. It's like a two-lane street. You know, the right to freedom of speech also includes the right to be heard. I'm going to say that again. The right to freedom of speech includes the right to be heard. Now, that means I have the right to speak, you have the right to speak, and nothing can mute you. Nothing can silence you. Now, the person that's hearing can walk away. They could turn off the TV. They could even argue back, but they can't stop you from talking. They can't tear your tongue out, in other words, your means of communication. That's fascism. But getting back to it, I would argue to the Trump family, based on that Second Circuit opinion that was unanimous 3-0, and the Supreme Court is still pending before everything pens. When it comes to Trump, everything pens before the Supreme Court indefinitely. Don't you feel very, very confident in the court system in this country these days, especially after what happened the last 2 months? I mean, you know, it makes you wonder how great the Federalist Society really is, because we stack the courts with all their members. I'm telling you something, in 2021, 2022, I hope for their reputation they come out with dozens of far right-wing decisions, because frankly, I have lost a lot of faith in the system. And by the way, Jefferson never liked the federal court system. You know, did anybody ever tell you the story? My uncle would tell me the story because he's a big fan of Thomas Jefferson. And Jefferson actually, when he got back from Europe, he never signed on for the U.S. Constitution. You know, he was not one of the signatories for it. He wasn't there. And when he got back and he saw what they did, he came to Article 3, which was the establishment of the federal judiciary, the Supreme Court. And he said, "What did you do?" He was basically, my uncle dramatizes this one. "What did you do? This is terrible." And I'm paraphrasing. These men in robes, okay, these men and women in robes someday are going to run roughshod. They're going to actually dominate the country. There's no way to get rid of them. They're not accountable to anyone. They have lifetime appointments. It's so undemocratic, it's ridiculous. They're going to legislate from the bench, is what he was warning us. He warned the Federalists. He wasn't a Federalist. He was an anti-Federalist. So, you know, but I thought that was, he was a Jeffersonian, as they became known. The forerunners of the Democrats, the true Democrats. But so anyway, getting back to it, but nevertheless, we can use this, and the Trump family should consider doing this. Any social media service that censored the president, in essence, was violating, I believe you could argue, a Second Circuit Court decision, which said Donald Trump's account, his personal account, was no longer personal. He was not entitled to do blocks. I don't know about mutes, but he wasn't entitled to do blocks to users because of his unique position in the world. People had the right to access his speech under the First Amendment. That was powerful. His unique position made him a public figure. He was in a government public figure. And I guess this extends, frankly, to every other politician who has their accounts suspended or has their accounts who tries to block users. They need to keep them open so we, the people of the United States, the people, left and right, have the right to see what they're saying. It's transparency. It's true transparency, and access it and comment on it even, right? And likewise, though, it goes both ways. It's a two-lane street, okay? The right to access information means you have the right to also, the opposition, the opposite side of the coin, they have the right to give information. In this case, Donald Trump has the right to speak. And so does representatives. I think Marjorie Greene wasn't she suspended the other day? And all these other people, Team Trump, they have the right to speak. Anyway, that's another thing. I could speak more on that at a later time, but getting us off of social media is the theme I wanted to talk about briefly. And, you know, there are all different alternatives. I really like Gab. I like Gab, but I really like Parler. I think the Parler app is beautiful, and I'm really digging it, and I can't wait for it to come back online. And I'm telling you, that's where, you know, I'm heading. But here's something that people can do, and I think it would be really good and really behoove people to do this, and that is this. One of the best protests you can do to the government peaceably is through your pocketbook. It's like voting with your feet, but you're voting with your pocketbook. And that is this. On like January 20th and going on further, start closing your big tech accounts. Facebook, Instagram, anything else you can think of. What's the other one? Not TikTok. I forgot that other one. There's Instagram, there's Facebook. There's another one that people use. Whatever the app may be, start closing it and write letters to their customer service departments, write letters to their offices and tell them why you're doing it. You're doing it because of censorship and you're protesting it. And let me tell you, if you don't believe that hurts their cap, it does. Because look at that, 51 billion in a market cap reduction, mostly from Facebook, but also from Twitter after just a few days. Continue doing it. But one of the biggest ones is the biggest culprits. That's sort of like the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Not so quiet though. Amazon. And here's my thing about Amazon. I don't like Amazon Prime's app. I have it. Everybody has an Amazon account. I've had it for years. But let me tell you something. It's a convenience again. It's going back to what I was saying about Twitter and social media. It's a convenience that you can just access it. In the case of social media, it's the fact that the apps are user friendly and they're on our cell phones. Because frankly, again, like I was saying a minute ago, I was alluding to this. If you had to go home and log in like you did on Facebook 10, 15 years ago, Facebook doesn't really, I don't know, Facebook's apps are so-so, I guess. I don't have Facebook. I never did it, so I don't know. But I mean, Twitter, frankly, if it didn't have the Twitter app, I'd never be on Twitter. If Twitter didn't have an app, I probably would be 90% reduction, 95%. I'd never be on Twitter. And I think a lot of people wouldn't be on Twitter. The app, because of the proliferation of smartphones and the app technology, sort of like it was a marriage between the two and everybody has access to it. But if it didn't have the app, forget about it. So here's that handles that, right? Okay, so if we can just get Parler and the rest of them when it comes back up and running, and then we figure out an alternative to Google Play, which or the Apple Store, and again, the demand will create the market, or I should say, the market will create the demand, creates the market, creates the innovation actually, and in that case, we're going to actually have some conservative alternatives to servers. It just requires a little money in servers and some innovation. But coming to Amazon, I don't like the Amazon app, frankly. I never did. I mean, there's a few different ones. Speaking specifically here, I have an Amazon account, but the app is now a little more user-friendly, but it's a lot of bloatware. I usually go on my computer when I order from Amazon anyway, so I use the web browser. But let me tell you, Amazon, largely, when you subscribe to Prime, for instance, I didn't even know this but until I had subscribed to Prime, but you get the Prime Video selection. Now, I got smart TVs. Everybody has a smart TV these days. In the last few years, I upgraded. I got smart TVs. So the app is there. And it's fun because you can see all these movies. I mean, I like it. But listen, here's the thing. I'm getting rid of that. I am already gotten rid of YouTube, which is no-brainer because, frankly, I can't stand what YouTube is doing to my favorite shows. Bannon's not on there. I'm not going to talk about but you can just imagine other right-wing groups. There's Dr. Steve Turley and all the rest of them, some great people on there. They're still on there, but now everybody's acting worried because of what they're going to say. I don't like their censorship policy. So I never pay for YouTube. I never had a subscription to YouTube. The only thing YouTube ever produced, in my opinion, was Cobra Kai, and now it doesn't even have that anymore, which was a great, if you've ever seen it, Cobra Kai is a great web series. It's a sequel to The Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid with Ralph Macchio and William Zabka. But it doesn't even have that anymore. So to me, there's no point in having YouTube. I actually go on YouTube. This is what I've been doing for years. I watched RSBN, like we all did. I watched it for the president. Beyond that, I don't watch anything else. I don't watch the news on there or anything else. And all I do really is watch old films that somebody uploads for free. That's what I think a lot of people do. I don't even really play music on there. So to me, getting rid of YouTube is actually pretty easy. It's just the fact that I'm not going to have access to those old films. Okay, but that's okay. I can deal with that. Guess what? I'm going to go online and I'm going to buy the old films the way I used to and have the DVDs or the Blu-rays sent to my house. The other thing is Amazon Prime, the video. Now, I kind of like some of the programming they have, but most of it you have to pay extra for anyways. And the fact is that if you notice something, if you have Amazon Prime on your TV, I don't like the Amazon Prime app for the TV. It's bloatware. So it slows down the TV. And there's always ads. So like, what do I need it for? So I started thinking through this, and I'm looking for alternatives. There's Pluto TV, which I think is pretty cool because I downloaded it the other day, and immediately it's almost like watching live TV. So it recreates the TV experience where you don't really, at least from what I can tell offhand, I've only been on it for a few minutes actually, but you can't really go back and go back and rewind. You know what I mean? It takes up wherever you're at. But the moment I did that and I went on there, I noticed right away they had Star Trek: The Next Generation playing. It has its own channel. So I was watching this channel and I was really digging it. And I say, oh, this is great. It reminds me of my childhood. And so that's an alternative. There's Roku, which has its own app, which is another alternative. That's a lot like Prime. There's all different ones you can download. And I know they're all part of the tech Silicon Valley kind of larger community. There's Rumble, of course, that you can download. Although I don't know if Rumble has a TV app. It probably does. But there's all different things you can do to get away from the companies now that are committing these egregious acts against free speech. And they're acting fascist. Because anytime you censor speech, as I was saying earlier, that's a form of fascism. So there's different ways of getting off of it. It's not that hard. But the big thing about Amazon is their main app for ordering stuff because it's a big convenience. And again, it's convenience. We're battling against convenience. 15 years ago, we didn't have this. These conveniences didn't exist. So getting off of social media, for instance, specifically Twitter or Facebook and all that, you don't need it because 15 years ago you'd go home and, well, Facebook was around, but you'd go home and go on your laptop or you'd go on your desktop. So my thing is with those you can handle it, but the point is it's the convenience that we're battling. It's human nature to want to have everything at our fingertips. My urging would say, here's something you can do for protest. Shut your Amazon accounts. Because let me tell you, if Bezos starts getting hit like that, that sends a message right there. And what are they doing specifically? Well, Amazon's not into social. That's not a social media communication site, but because they control servers, which, by the way, rent space to Twitter. It's Amazon that keeps Twitter up and running, and they were doing it to Parler. They put that pressure on. You don't want them censoring. They should not be censoring, and that's the best way to teach them a lesson, I think, is a very good way. Getting off of it. And then you know what you do? Buy local mortar and brick stores, mom and pop stores, to pick up the necessities. Find a few different companies that you can actually order the goods from. And you may spend a couple of dollars more, but it's worth it, in my opinion, because free speech isn't free, and it's going to cost money. So also another option you can do too. I know a company that is cutting off all its ties with Amazon, but one of the things that the owner was telling me, and it's a big company, it's a manufacturing company, is he was actually thinking of, in some cases, he's going to keep his Amazon account open, and he's going to buy strictly through third party, and he's going to buy American made. Because now the flip side is a lot of third party smaller businesses use the Amazon.com storefronts. And you don't want to hurt them because that's the way they make their livelihood. And they're not a part of the Amazon corporate think tank, if you would, that's making all these crazy political policies, right, when it regards to free speech and what they did to Parler. So there is a balancing act. So him and I were talking, and he's got a big manufacturing company, and what he's actually going to do is buy from the third parties, knowing that Amazon gets a slice of that, but making it clear to Amazon that he's not going to buy. His company will no longer buy from Amazon itself. Amazon itself will not be getting the business. That'll still take a big hit and hit Amazon. So that's another option if you want to do it gradually, if you want to do it in piecemeal. But in my opinion, like Gandhi, his whole life was all about nonviolent resistance. This type of resistance to big tech, where we shut down, where we turn off, where we close our accounts, and then we make it clear why we're doing it in letters. Whether we do it all, and of course we're not going to all do it in one day, but I say, hey, this would be great to start on January 20th going forward and just keep doing it. This sends a powerful message. Let me tell you what nonviolent resistance did in British India. It forced the world's greatest empire in the history of Western civilization out of India, because you could not run India without the Indians. Gandhi understood this, okay? The Indian people understood this. And whether they were Muslim or whether they were Hindu, the Indian people unified behind this idea, nonviolent resistance. They basically shut down their country. They refused to cooperate and work with the authorities, in this case, the occupiers, which were the British government. Now, we can all argue the efficacy of that, whether or not the British were as bad as modern history says, whether the Indians function better as independently, which I think they have. I know there's debate on right and left sides on this, and that's the wonderful thing about America and democracy is you have the right to talk about these differences of opinion. And so that's a separate conversation, okay? That's a separate conversation. But the point here is just focusing on what actually happened, the effect that nonviolent resistance had on a major imperial power that was occupying a foreign, quote unquote foreign. A lot of Brits had been born and raised in India and called it home, so it was their home too. But nevertheless, a foreign, meaning outside of the Indian subcontinent, power occupying India was forced out by nonviolent resistance, literally shutting it down. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something now. And I know right now we don't have the platforms for conservatives are not up and running. And I know some wealthy conservatives out there have ideas. We have entrepreneurs out there. We have innovators out there that are conservatives. We all need to get together. Send me ideas that you may have. Email me ideas about creating server platforms, maybe new websites, maybe new alternatives to social media. But let me just say something. Okay? Non-violent resistance, shutting it down. Conservatives are not living in basements. Conservatives, Republicans, right-wingers, whatever you want to be called, whatever deplorables, go out and work for a living. They pay the bulk of the taxes. They do the work. They're the blue collar and white collar. We have a diverse, wide, black, white, Hispanic, and Latino, of course, Asian, you name it, young, old, male, female. It doesn't matter. Christian, Muslim, Catholic, Protestant, of course, when I say Christian. The point is everybody, the deplorables are a wide, diverse range. And you know what? One of the things that unify them, besides their love for country and their love for Donald Trump, it's also the fact that they go out and work hard and they're building a greater America. If they start to resist, when they start to shut down and they refuse to move, the country comes to a standstill. And there's no way to force people to do anything about it. I'm going to leave you with that thought. So starting it off with just, you know what, choosing to do their business elsewhere, that's effective and powerful, targets the big companies which are trying the censorship attack, this censorship attempt, which is what it is, and it is an attack on free speech. Anyways, thank you for joining me for this episode. God bless you as I love you. If you want to support me, please do. There's a link at the bottom, my PayPal account. I appreciate it. I do this for you. I do it gratis. I'm not employed by anyone. And I do contribute to RSBN once in a while, and they're wonderful people. But, of course, that's completely gratis. I've done that for them throughout the election cycle, post-election cycle. And also, if you're interested in taking my seminar, it'll be January 21st to the 23rd. If you're interested in me privately tutoring or teaching you in a crash course, if you would, what I'm going to go over if you can't make the seminar, do contact me about that. I'd be happy to set up a time to teach you individually. It's something I like to do. But anyways, my seminar is going to be Civics Maximus. It'll be from the 21st to the 23rd of January. And there is a fee for it. You can sign up through my PayPal account. DM me for more information on that, or you can also contact Jen and Roxy and Savage, who are my assistants that help me out with that. Help me out organize these different events. We'll be discussing American government and its function in light of what the founders intended. The republic versus democracy. Of course, these philosophies, it's political philosophies, and people. It's going to be in a Socratic discussion, so my students can actually interact with me on a one-on-one basis, and we'll actually try try to. There'll be a lot of questions, and we'll try to find the answers together. Anyways, God bless you. Love you. Talk to you later, and see you soon. Ciao.